Hello students, welcome to the lecture on compensation management, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand the concept of compensation management, discuss job evaluation. Let's start with what employee compensation is. Employee compensation plays a key role because it is at the heart of the employment relationship, being of critical importance to both employees and employers. Employees typically depend on wages, salaries, and so forth to provide a large share of their income and on benefits to provide income and health security. For employers, compensation decisions influence their cost of doing business and thus their ability to sell at a competitive price in the product market. In addition, compensation decisions influence the employer's ability to compete for employees in the labor market, attract and retain, as well as their attitudes and behaviors while with the employer. Employee compensation practices differ across employment units. Example, organizations, business units and facilities on several dimensions. The focus of the employee compensation literature has been on defining these dimensions, understanding why organizations differ on them, determinants, and assessing whether such differences have consequences for employee attitudes and behaviors and for organizational effectiveness. Here we briefly describe the basic dimensions of compensation and summarize some of the key theories used to explain the consequences of different compensation decisions.
Why do industry leaders use exemptive for employee performance management and compensation management? To make sure that each employee has objectives supporting personal development while staying aligned with team and company direction. To ensure that employees constantly have a clear understanding of these objectives and how they are doing against them so they can adjust immediately if necessary. To define the most effective compensation plan to best support these objectives given budgetary and local job market or legal constraints. And so that employees have total visibility into these compensation plans, thus maximizing motivation and retention. Thanks to exemptive, industry leaders have managed to link these four aspects together to have compensation plans that are aligned and effective. So what is it that exemptive provides for industry leaders? First, pre-built mechanisms to easily leverage data from HR and other systems, including external benchmarks, and to collect and approve qualitative information so they always have fresh, high-quality, controlled data. Automation of their business rules for calculation and real-time simulation of salary, bonus, commission, and stock options so they always have the most effective total compensation in place for each employee. Clear communication of objectives, results, and all aspects of compensation in one global view so that employees understand their objectives, results, and compensation. A process flow to ensure performance and compensation management is in the hands of local managers under the control of human resources so that these processes are executed much faster while empowering local managers. Whether they use exemptive for managing employee performance, compensation, or both, they benefit from a more efficient process that delivers higher employee motivation and retention. Working with exemptive, industry leaders are staying ahead of their competitors.
So, what is HR? It's a simple question. But what's with all the confusing answers? Boring. So, here's a simple answer. Introducing what is HR? HR stands for Human Resources. Obvious, right? But what does it actually mean? It's about managing your people to make money. I know what you're thinking, but HR is all just fluff. Well, you're wrong. Take a look at your balance sheet. What is your biggest cost? It's that massive payroll bill, right? You'd hardly call that fluff. So why wouldn't you maximize this huge investment?
Human resource is the most vital resource for any organization. It is responsible for each and every decision taken, each and every work done, and each and every result. Employees should be managed properly and motivated by providing best remuneration and compensation as per the industry standards. The lucrative compensation will also serve the need for attracting and retaining the best employees. Compensation is the remuneration received by an employee in return for his or her contribution to the organization. It is an organized practice that involves balancing the work-employee relation by providing monetary and non-monetary benefits to employees. Compensation is an integral part of human resource management which helps in motivating the employees and improving organizational effectiveness. Compensation is one of the most important HRM functions. It can help to reinforce the organization's culture and key values and to facilitate the achievement of its strategic business objectives. An organization's compensation policies and practices, by rewarding desired results, can reinforce employee behavior that realizes its strategic business objectives. Compensation is a formidable communicator and can be a powerful instrument for change and a major determinant of the culture of an organization. Reward systems by themselves will not change a culture. They can help reinforce a desired culture. Individual pay for performance undermines collective employment relations and marginalizes unions, which in turn explains union hostility towards such compensation approaches. If there is any significant mismatch between compensation and organizational strategy, it is likely to result in major barriers to the achievements of strategic business objectives. For many organizations, employee compensation is the biggest single cost of doing business. Pay and benefit costs, according to O'Neill, are the largest single operating expense for most service companies and typically the second or third highest expense category in manufacturing. Compensation policies and practices should emanate from the organization's strategic business objectives because these determine the performance and behaviors to be motivated, the kind of people to be attracted and retained, and the structure of the organization. A formal compensation policy should reflect the organization's strategic business objectives and culture, articulate the objectives that an organization wants to achieve via its compensation programs, be communicated to all employees, provide the foundation for designing and implementing compensation and benefit programs. The common compensation program objectives are: attract and keep the desired quality and mix of employees, motivate employees to continually improve their performance and achieve the organization's strategic business objectives, reinforce the organization's key values and the desired organizational culture, drive and reinforce desired employee behavior, ensure compensation is maintained at the desired competitive level, control compensation costs, ensure optimum value for each compensation dollar spent, comply with legal requirements. For the employee, ensure equitable treatment, accurately measure and appropriately reward performance and contribution to the achievement of the organization's strategic business objectives. To achieve these objectives, it is essential that organizations have a systematic approach to compensation. The effects of inadequate compensation planning are numerous. A pay program may include the following 4 components: base pay, wage and salary add-ons, incentive payments, and benefits and services. Base pay refers to the cash that an employer pays for the work performed. This base pay can be further delineated as either a wage or a salary. Wages are hourly rates of pay regulated by the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. This federal legislation formed the foundation of minimum wage, overtime pay, child labor, gender equality, and record-keeping requirements for US businesses. Employees who are subject to the Fair Labor Standards Act are known in compensation management parlance as non-exempt. Salaries which are usually paid to managers and professionals are annual or monthly calculations of pay that usually have less relation to hours worked. Most but not all salaried workers are exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Wage and salary add-ons include cost of living adjustments or COLAs, overtime, holiday and other premium wages, travel and apparel expenses, and a host of related forms of premiums and reimbursements. Wage and salary add-ons are used to compensate employees for work above and beyond their normal work schedules or to reimburse them for expenses related to their jobs. COLAs are usually across the board contractual increases tied to an economic indicator such as the Consumer Price Index that reports an increase in the cost of living. Incentive payments refer to funds employees receive for meeting performance or output goals as well as to seniority and merit pay. Companies provide these forms of compensation to influence employee behavior, improve productivity, and reward employees for their years of service or their strong job performance. Finally, benefits and services include paid time off, health insurance, deferred income such as pension and profit sharing programs, company cars, fitness club memberships, child care services, and tuition reimbursement. Social security, workers' compensation, and unemployment compensation are three legally required benefits. Since its initial passage in 1935, the Social Security Act has been amended and expanded to protect workers and their families from losses due to retirement, disability, and/or death. Employers, employees, and the self-employed make contributions to the Social Security Fund over the course of their careers. Workers' compensation benefits have evolved from the early 1900s when rising industrial accident rates prompted state legislatures to action. All 50 states have enacted laws designed to compensate victims, minimize accident-related litigation, reduce on-the-job accidents, and provide treatment and/or rehabilitation where applicable. Unemployment insurance is designed to help workers through the unexpected loss of a job. Employers pay the premiums for unemployment insurance in the form of variable federal and state taxes. Workers who become unemployed and meet preset eligibility requirements receive weekly benefits. Benefits may also come in the form of protection programs such as life and health insurance and pensions and retirement plans. Group life insurance is one of the most widely offered benefits because of its cost effectiveness. Most employers shoulder the premiums for employees and sometimes retirees, but end coverage at employee termination. Group health insurance has also become an expected component of benefits plans. Employers typically choose between 5 prevalent systems: community-based, commercial insurance, self-insurance, health maintenance organization, or preferred provider. Each of these systems has advantages and drawbacks, and in an era of skyrocketing medical costs and impending federal and/or state supervision of the healthcare industry, this aspect of compensation management has become even more complex. Pension and retirement plans include defined benefit plans and defined contribution plans. As many as 80% of pension plan participants are the beneficiaries of defined benefit plans. In such a program, the employer promises a fixed pension level, either in terms of a dollar amount or a percentage of earnings scaled to seniority. Defined contribution plans specify the amount an employer will set aside in an investment fund for the benefit of each employee. These plans have grown increasingly popular in the 1980s and 1990s because employers know their costs upfront, employees can also contribute, and the funds can accumulate in a tax shelter. Employee Stock Ownership Plans (ESOPs) and 401k plans are the most popular defined contribution plans. It is important for small business owners to understand the difference between wages and salaries. A wage is based on hours worked. Employees who receive a wage are often called non-exempt. A salary is an amount paid for a particular job, regardless of hours worked, and these employees are called exempt. The difference between the two is carefully defined by the type of position and the kinds of tasks that employees perform. In general, exempt employees include executives, administrative and professional employees, and others as defined by the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. These groups are not covered by minimum wage provisions. Non-exempt employees are covered by minimum wage as well as other provisions. It is important to pay careful attention to these definitions when determining whether an individual is to receive a wage or a salary. Improper classification of a position can not only pose legal problems but often result in employee dissatisfaction, especially if the employee believes that execution of the responsibilities and duties of the position warrant greater compensation than is currently awarded. When setting the level of an employee's monetary compensation, several factors must be considered. First and foremost, wages must be set high enough to motivate and attract good employees. They must also be equitable, that is, the wage must accurately reflect the value of the labor performed. In order to determine salaries or wages that are both equitable for employees and sustainable for companies, businesses must first make certain that they understand the responsibilities and requirements of the position under review. The next step is to review prevailing rates and classifications for similar jobs. This process requires research of the competitive rate for a particular job within a given geographical area. Wage surveys can be helpful in defining wage and salary structures, but these should be undertaken by a professional when possible to achieve the most accurate results. In addition, professional wage surveys can sometimes be found through local employment bureaus or in the pages of trade publications. Job analysis not only helps to set wages and salaries, but ties into several other human resource functions such as hiring, training, and performance appraisal. As the job is defined, a wage can be determined and the needs for hiring and training can be evaluated. The evaluation criteria for performance appraisal can also be constructed as the specific responsibilities of a position are defined. Other factors to consider when settling on a salary for a position include availability of people capable of fulfilling the obligations and responsibilities of the job, level of demand elsewhere in the community and or industry for prospective employees, cost of living in the area, attractiveness of the community in which the company operates, compensation levels already in existence somewhere in the company. Benefits are an important part of an employee's total compensation package. Benefits packages became popular after World War II when wage controls made it more difficult to give competitive salaries. Benefits were added to monetary compensation to attract, retain, and motivate employees, and they still perform that function today. They are not cash rewards, but they do have monetary value. For example, spiraling healthcare costs make health benefits particularly essential to today's families. Many of these benefits are non-taxable to the employee and deductible by the employer. Many benefits are not required by law but are nonetheless common in total compensation packages. These include health insurance, accidental death, and dismemberment insurance, some form of retirement plan, vacation and holiday pay, and sick leave. Companies may also offer various services such as daycare to employees either free or at a reduced cost. It is also common to provide employees with discounted services or products offered by the company itself. In addition, there are also certain benefits that are required by either state or federal law. Federal law, for example, requires the employer to pay into Social Security, and employment insurance is mandated under OASDHI. State laws govern workers' compensation. As businesses change their focus, their approach to compensation must change as well. Traditional compensation methods may hold a company back from adequately rewarding its best workers. When compensation is tied to a base salary and a position, there is little flexibility in the reward system. Some new compensation systems, on the other hand, focus on reward for skills and performance, with the workforce sharing in company profit or loss. One core belief of new compensation policies is that as employees become employee owners, they are likely to work harder to ensure the success of the company. Indeed, programs that promote employee ownership, thus employee responsibility and emotional investment, becoming increasingly popular. Examples of these types of programs include gain sharing, in which employees earn bonuses by finding ways to save the company money, pay for knowledge, in which compensation is based on job knowledge and skill rather than on position, and in which employees can increase base pay by learning a variety of jobs, and incentive plans such as employee stock option plans, ESOPs. Pay for performance, probably the most popular of the newer concepts in compensation, is the easiest to understand compensation based on performance. These programs, sometimes referred to as variable pay programs, generally offer compensation incentives based on employee performance or on the performance of a team. Pay for performance rewards high performance and does not reward mediocre or low performance, and is the definition of the merit system. In a true merit-based system, there are a few conditions which must be satisfied for it to be meaningful. Differences in performance must mean something to the business. If there is little difference between a high performer and a mediocre one, merit pay would not work. Performance must be measured regularly and reliably.
Please make yourself comfortable, Susan.
May I ask what this is about, Fabio?
The firm is performing job evaluations for everyone, and this is your 30-day evaluation.
What does that mean?
We will evaluate on how well you are able to perform your job. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being poor and 10 being extraordinary, where do you think you stand?
OMG, at least a 21.
Ah, right.
I have improved since my first day, and now I can text over 150 words a minute and have mastered Angry Birds.
Okay. Let us try and work on a demonstration. I will call you and you take it from there, okay?
Sure.
Ring ring ring. Susan, that is your cue to answer the phone.
Oh, right. Hello?
You forgot to include the salutation and the firm's name. We are going to have to continue this evaluation at a future time.
The job evaluation is a set of systematic procedures to determine the relative worth of jobs within the organization. It aims at establishing pay structures that are fair and equitable and rewards appropriately the greater efforts and hardships involved in some jobs as compared to others. Job evaluation is the process by which the content and contribution, value added of a role in an organizational context is measured using a common set of factors to arrive at a well-reasoned, defensible and equitable pay. It is the process by which work at various levels is compared within an organization. The process further provides a means by which internal roles may be linked to the salaries as provided by competitive organizations. From this linkage, organizations may make decisions on their remuneration framework and policies, eventually leading to individual pay decisions. Job evaluation is the process of analyzing and appraising the content of jobs set in the family of other jobs so as to put them in a suitably evolved rank order, which can then be utilized for installation of an acceptable wage structure in an organization. In short, job evaluation concerns itself with the pricing of jobs in relation to other jobs on the basis of concern that is consistent, fair, logical and equitable, and not on the basis of arbitrary variable judgments dictated by short-term expediency or arrived at through rule of thumb methods. While one may get the impression that as a technique, job evaluation possesses precision of a scientific variety, it is not so in practice, for in the ultimate analysis, it is essentially a way of applying judgment. Since no evaluator process can eliminate the need to exercise judgment, however systematic it is or may be, it will always remain captive to human judgment. Additionally so, because the technique is to be administered by people and for people in the live organization. The ultimate goal of job evaluation is the establishment of a hierarchical structure of jobs based on a common set of criteria. These evaluation criteria are generally expressed in the form of compensable factors. In general, most organizations use following four broad categories of compensable factors, components of job content or work demands that are felt to provide the basis for compensation. Skill needed to perform the job, effort required completing the job, responsibility that goes with the exception, and working conditions under which jobs are performed. Some of the important objectives of a job evaluation program are establishment of sound salary differentials between jobs differentiated on the skills required, identification and elimination of salary-related inequities, establishment of sound foundation for variable pay such as incentive and bonus, maintenance of a consistent career and employee growth policy guidelines. In organizations with active unions, creation of a method of job classification so that management and union officials may deal with major and fundamental wage issues during negotiations and grievance meetings. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. In financial terms, the salary and wages we pay to your employees for the work they do. Other non-financial forms of compensation can also be offered to attract and retain staff. Compensation is one of the most important HRM functions. It can help to reinforce the organization's culture and key values and to facilitate the achievement of its strategic business objectives. It is important for small business owners to understand the difference between wages and salaries. The job evaluation is a set of systematic procedures to determine the relative worth of jobs within the organization. The point factor method or point plan involves rating each job on several compensable factors and adding the scores on each factor to obtain total points for a job.